हुज़ूर अक़दस सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम खिदमत में हाजिर हुए. On an occasion, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the service came a lot of wealth from Bahrain, and the needy from the Ansari radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, when they heard about this, then at the Fajr namaz they came into the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. हुज़ूर अक़दस सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने नमाज के बाद मजमे को देखकर तबस्सुम फरमाया और यह इरशाद फरमाया कि मेरे ख्याल में इस माल की खबर सुनकर तुम आए हो. When Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam after the Fajr prayer, he saw the gathering there, he smiled and he said that it is my thought that you have come after hearing about this wealth that's come. उन्होंने अर्ज़ किया बेशक या रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम इसीलिए हाजिर हुए हैं. They said without a doubt, O Prophet Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have come because of this. हुज़ूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया मैं तुम्हें कसरत माल की खुशखबरी देता हूँ कि अनकरीब माल बहुत ज़्यादा होने वाला है. नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम then said, I shall give you glad tidings of lots of wealth, that soon wealth in abundance shall come to you. और जिस चीज़ से तुम खुश होते हो यानी माल, उसकी उम्मीद रखो कि वो तुम्हारे पास बहुत ज़्यादा आने वाला है. And that thing that pleases you, yani wealth, then and which you hope for, then remember that it's going to come to you in great abundance. मैं तुम्हारे फ़क्र और फाका से खाइफ नहीं हूँ. नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम then said that I do not fear poverty for you, लेकिन मुझे उसका डर है कि तुम्हारे ऊपर दुनिया फैल पड़े. However, I fear that wealth or the dunya is spread before you, जैसा कि तुमसे पहले लोगों पर फैल चुकी है, in the way that wealth was spread before the people that came before you. और फिर तुम उसमें दिल लगा बैठो, and then you become attached to it, जिसकी वजह से तुमको भी इसी तरह हलाक कर दे जैसा कि तुमसे पहले लोगों को हलाक कर चुकी है. In the way that you shall be destroyed, the way that the people before you were also destroyed. एक और हदीस में हुज़ूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का इरशाद पाक है कि मुझे तुम लोगों पर ज़्यादा खौफ इस बात का है कि अल्लाह ताला शान तुम पर ज़मीन की बरक़ात निकाल दे. In another hadith, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam says कि मुझे तुम लोगों पर ज़्यादा खौफ, I fear, the greatest thing that I fear over you is that Allah Almighty, He takes out the barakat, the blessings from the zameen. किसी ने अर्ज़ किया या रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, somebody said, O Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ज़मीन की बरक़ात क्या चीज़ें हैं? He said, O Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is the barakat, what is the blessings of the dunya? Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam ने फरमाया कि दुनिया की रौनक, he said the glistening things or the wealth of the dunya itself. Hazrat Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala anhu Huzur sallallahu alaihi wasallam. On this you remember one thing that comes to mind. Ibn Khaldun rahmatullah alayh was a very famous alim of deen in Arabi Som, in Mukhtarat, the first part. They actually teach you Mukhtar. There's one essay of Ibn Khaldun from his Muqaddimah that Hazrat Alimiya Sahib rahmatullah alayh has mentioned in has included within Mukhtarat. And that was the first time in 1998 when he studied Mukhtarat, the Arabic kitab on prose and literature, that you actually came across this person called Ibn Khaldun. Ibn Khaldun was a alim deen. He was born in Tunisia, but his family originally came from Seville in Spain. And before that, they were a Yemeni Hadrami family that moved there over time after the conquest of Andalus. And he wrote this book, the Muqaddimah. In fact, it was a longer book, but the Muqaddimah is just one part of the book, the introduction. And they say that he's the father of sociology, if I remember correctly. He's the father of sociology. He introduced to us in the ulum in those days. And one of the things that he wrote was a theory that he talks about, which is known as the cyclic, is that the right word? Cyclic theory. Yeah? He talks about the cyclic theory in how, nation states are created or dynasties are created. So you have a group of tribesmen living out rough. They come together, and the first generation, they establish a kingdom somewhere. The second generation has a connection with the first generation known as Asabiya, and they also are shaped by the ideology and the mindset and the grit of the second generation. Then you have the third generation. They're a bit distant from the original generation. They become weak. And then the fourth generation that comes after that, they lose it completely. And he says that the kingdoms or states or sultanates run according to this. He says that each generation is 40 years. So 40, 80, 160 years in total. It can be prolonged, it can be distance. And he says that every single kingdom, every single sultanate, every single dynasty goes through this phase, bit by bit, bit by bit. The Ottomans, the Mughals, many other, the Mamluks before them, all these different different dynasties go through this state. And he says that the first generation, they like to do mujahada, qurbani. The second generation, they have that connection, their mind has been fashioned. But by the third generation, the qurbani is gone. The dunya is laid before them. The dunya is laid before them, and they become enthralled in the pleasures of the dunya. And by the fourth generation, they're completely detached from the original ideals. You could easily take this theory, the cyclic theory, and place it into urban migration. Migration of communities into the UK, for example. The first generation came in the 50s and the 60s. Ek pound karine masjid banaiwa. Yeah, the qurbani that they gave. We saw them. Maybe we're fashioned accordingly. The qurbani that they gave, we understand that, we saw that. But you talk to our children and grandchildren, they can't get it in their heads. There's the generation that's being raised up on glistening of the world in the form of smash burgers, Angus beef burgers, and dessert parlors. Yeah? What's going to happen to the fourth generation? The cyclic theory. And you look at these hadiths, the hadiths can easily be applied in this context, very easily. That, you know, the greatest thing that I fear upon you, when we used to go in Jamaat before in the days, Masjid Ashrafia Masjid, in the 1990s, Abdullah, you remembers, yeah? What was the wuzu khana like in those days? Huh? What was the wuzu khana like in those days? What was this old masjid like? When you talk to our kids nowadays, they go in Jamaat according to 5-star masjid, 4-star masjid, 3rd-star masjid. Yeah? What are the facilities like? The madrasas that we went to, you know, what did we eat there in those days? Yeah? This was the qurbani that we gave. But then the ronak has now come. The ronak has come in front of us, and we become weak. And the generations are going weak. Is it the case, Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best, is it the case that the cyclic theory, although it was created to capture the way generations of an established dynasty or a sultanate, yeah, like the Mamluks or the Mughals, go into some sort of decline over 4 generations, is it the case that this theory could easily be applied to our situation today? Huh? The idea is that, you know, we can delay it. And the way to delay it is that dunya se beta'alluq ho jao. Yani become detached from the dunya and become attached to the akhirat, bring zikr into our life and bring some siqalatul qulub, purify the heart. And inshallah, by bringing tawajjuh of these things into our heart, inshallah ta'ala, we'll be able to maybe delay it in the way that's maybe sooner or later, a mujaddid will come, somebody who in our area, in our context in the UK, can revive the deen as it was. Inshallah, zikr kar lete hai. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, shalla ila anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Maaf, I've gone into something else totally.
Freshies will come over.
Huh?
Freshies when you come over, when you tell them. Freshies. Mujahida we used to go. And you people have it on the plate.
Ama walid sahab unke dawra khaba ke Allah Haji Dawood sahab ke you know je nafa logo bada avet akhol nafa logo ya nafa logo ave to e logo we say to them, you've got it on the plate, to e logo ke you know they can't believe it. Ama walid sahab ke Allah tayyar otlo tayyar rotlo de tayyar gallo ton cheezo kala biju tane hu lewanu chhe. You've come to this country, tayyar otlo ge ghar bhi tayyar tane moilo, yeah, tayyar rotlo bhi tayyar moilo, e tayyar ghallo, yeah, gaadi bhi tayyar. Abe maza ni maza zindagi chhe te evu chhe Haji sahab. Allah Taala tawfiq de, hidayat de. That was a golden era that we remember now. Sometimes we go into the qabristan, we see the names on the graves, and we remember those people. And we think to ourselves that, you know, the qurbani that they gave, the sacrifice they gave, the little perks that, you know, that people had, but what's going to happen to the next generation? And the fact is that sooner or later we need to think about these things as well. Because it's a generation that's being brought up on smash burgers and holti dolci, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Holti dolci or whatever, it's heavenly desserts. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallah, bihamdi, shalla ila astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Inshallah, we do one zikr, one tasbih of la ilaha illallah, one tasbih of illallah, one tasbih of Allah, inshallah. First of all, to begin with, this zikr of a few times we read Qul Huwallahu Ahad and give Isal Sawab to the Mashaykh of Tariqah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul Huwallahu Ahad, Allahu Samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا وسندنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله 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 سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا وسندنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الله 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 لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وشفينا وسندنا ومولانا محمد عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Inshallah next week. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.